Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and if this video looks familiar if you've been following my channel, it's from the last video that I made for my grandson who just got a new bicycle. And so I was showing in this video showing where we went for our very first ride. But when I made this video, then I saw some other interesting things, and so I decided, okay, I'm going to fly on over and look at those, and then another little construction site. So bear with me because some of this is going to look familiar to you, and some of it is going to be, well, different. So I think what I'll do is I'll tell you some stories of when I was flying my plane, and I had some close encounters with other aircraft. So I think that you may be interested in that. I'm not sure. So let's go ahead and get started. First one that I can remember, well, I can remember a lot of them, but the first one I want to tell you about is when I was taken off from the Pasco Airport. They have two runways. They have a long runway for larger planes, and they have a short runway for smaller planes, and they run parallel to each other. And I had taken off on, I can't remember, I think it was a short runway, I don't remember for sure. But anyway, I had taken off and I was climbing out, and I was probably maybe a couple of thousand feet up and maybe half a mile from the airport. And the tower said I had to be aware of the fact that there was a Cessna Seneca coming in the opposite direction to land on one of those two runways, and so to keep my eye open. Well, I don't think it was a very wise choice of theirs to just tell me to keep my eye open, because I was watching it. I mean, my life's in danger here, and my little Cessna 170, it didn't climb very fast, so I was probably on the same glide path as they were coming in. So I had to be real careful. And one thing that scared me to death was all of a sudden, there they were, I don't know, maybe 500 feet in front of me, and passed on my left, and just in a matter of a second or two, they were out of sight. So, it's hard to see a plane coming or leaving because the way they're designed, you can't, everything is thin so that the wings will fly and so forth. So I didn't see them until it was almost too late. So I was keeping my eyes open, but it wouldn't have helped if we would have been on the same exact path, because I was on the glide path and he was on where I was climbing out. At the same airport, and I think I mentioned this in another story, I had taken my son, who built the little house for us where we're living, the little addition to a shop where we're living. Well, I had taken him for a ride in a friend's Citabria, which is a two-seater, and one guy sits in front of the other. And so I was up front and he was in the back, and we were coming in for a landing, and we were on left downwind, and we don't need a whole lot of airspace to land at Citabria. And so at the same time, there was a U.S. Air passenger jet coming in, and so as I was just about ready to turn base, I looked out to my right, and sure enough, they had allowed him to land at the same time I was landing. Now take a look at this pond here, because as we flew up here, I forgot to mention it on the right. They were irrigating the field over to the right, and there was water there. And this part here used to be part of the same field. So it looks like they've got some kind of a leak, because this is not supposed to be part of the construction, I don't think. So anyway, back to the story. So, I saw him out there, and I figured he'd head on out and make a long landing or something. because I was turning the left base, which means I was going 90 degrees to what he was, and then I would go another little distance, and then I would make a turn to the left, and I'd be on final approach. Well, as I got to where I was going to turn, I looked out my window and a little bit to my back, and he had already started turning his passenger jet, and I could literally see the fan blades of the jets turning as they were spooling down as he was coming in to land. So I decided this is not good. So I kept my eye on him, and he was coming on around. So I climbed and gave it power, and because I had my son in the back, and we were just about to be run into by another aircraft. So I climbed and got high enough that he flew beneath me, and so I just deliberately made a left turn and flew right over the top of him as he was coming into land. My son and I were able to look down on the top of the fuselage and the tail and all that kind of stuff. And then I went on by and did a go around. So anyway, I had a similar incident when I was landing at the little airport where I used to have my plane annual in Hermiston, Oregon. It's a real small airstrip, and they had a taxiway at the approach end of the airstrip, and I had announced on the radio my intentions to come in and land, and so I was coming in on final, and usually you try to land right at the end of the runway. Well, right at the end of the runway, just as I was coming down, here comes this small twin-engine plane, taxis out onto the runway as I'm, maybe 1,000 feet from landing. So he taxis out and turns so that he can take off, and about the time he got turned, mean old me, I came down right over his windshield and dropped down in front of him and landed. And I don't know if he had his radio on or what the problem was, but anyway, so I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did it, and I was in the process of landing anyway, so everything was okay. All right, so that was a close encounter, and then another time I was flying over the deserts of eastern Washington, and probably up about 8,000 feet or so, and just flying along. I had some friends in the back, and we were going to go buzz the area where our children were at church camp. And we weren't going to buzz it illegally. We were just going to fly over and get close enough so they'd recognize us. And so we're up at about 8,000 feet, and we're headed, we'll just say we're headed west. And then all of a sudden, about, I'll say 400 or 500 feet above us, comes this plane in the opposite direction, just another private plane like mine. It was red, and it went right by us, right over the top of us, in a matter of just a second or two. Because you don't see him coming, and then all of a sudden, there he was. So anyway, and in that same area, but this was not at the same time. This is when I first got my Cessna 150. I was flying to Seattle, and you had to go around it's a military operation area, and it's huge place of land where they practice military maneuvers, and so you can't fly over it. Well, you can, but you're putting your life in danger. So I was in the process of flying around it, and I'm just flying along. I've been flying for an hour, and I'm just kind of, you're just kind of sitting there relaxing, flying, staying on course. And all of a sudden, from my left to my right, this fighter jet came right across in front of me, like that. Well, and then, of course, he was on his side, and his face was looking up at me as he came by. So he was showing off. And so then I thought, well, that woke me up for sure. And so I went about another minute or two, and the next thing I know, he's coming back the other way on his side, right in front of me, looking up at me through the top of his canopy. And I was already awake, so I just thought, well, he's kind of a clever guy. But he was doing some activities in the HOA, and I don't know why he decided he'd try to scare me, but that's what he did. let me see, what else have I got here? I'm looking at a list here. Oh, yeah, I've got a list. I've got one time when I was flying over to my brother's place, and he lived on the western side of the Cascade Mountains over on the Seattle side, and he lived out in the country, and so I was flying over to see him, and it was overcast, and I didn't want to. We were on ham radio as I was coming, and so he said, "It's clear here, so you can probably land here." Well, what he meant was there was holes in the clouds, and so I didn't mind going through holes in the clouds, but I thought, well, I know this area and it's flat, and I know how high the clouds are from the ground, so I think I'll just start dropping through the clouds. And there's that construction site that I said I was going to check out, and I'm going to check it out again and talk about it. But anyway, so I'm descending down to drop through the clouds, and as I get to where the clouds, the cloud tops are like, floating real close below me, out in front of me comes this, I think it was a C-17, a huge military plane. He's climbing up perpendicular to my flight. He's going from my left to his right and coming up through the clouds. And so I decided I'm not going to go through the clouds. That's kind of a stupid thing. It's illegal anyway. So I went on down to my brother's and got on the ham radio with him, and he said he heard me coming, and of course then he looked up, and I think he could see me through some holes in the clouds, and I found a beautiful hole in the clouds. I even used my camera to take a picture as I did a slipping turn, where you just lay it on its side, and you give it left aileron and right rudder, and or the other way around. Yeah, it doesn't matter, and you go on down through the hole. So anyway, those are some close calls I've had flying, and I don't know if you're interested, but anyway, I thought I'd tell those stories. So as I come into land, I want to thank you for watching my videos, and God bless.